Our hero has been changed. Our savior, brought to the side of evil, turned Hydra. Captain America was changed by the Cosmic Cube, a device with the power to do anything that anyone wished. The wish of the Red Skull was for Steve to become Hydra, and that's what happened. So he killed Red Skull, took over Hydra, and then conquered the US, using the laws that they themselves put into place. Tony Stark and the Black Widow each decided to lead a team in an attempt to stop Steve. Tony Stark wanted to find the Cosmic Cube pieces and restore Steve Rogers, while Black Widow just wants to kill him. And now, after Hydra has sent a resurrected Hulk to smash up the Resistance, Tony blew up the entire base in an attempt to kill Steve. But he was rescued right in the end, once again. Which brings us to today. But before we can continue that story, there's the vanishing point, where it would seem the classic Steve Rogers still exists, and the original Red Skull. In this world, the Red Skull is beating into Steve, telling him, "This is my gift to you, Hal Rogers. You will escape this place, and at least you will know peace." But back in reality, Steve is standing in his command center thinking of the death of Madame Hydra, the one who saved him. She was basically his mother within Hydra, treating him like her own son, and now he lost her. He turned back to his troops and he told them, "This one is for you, Alyssa." He stepped out onto the steps of the Capitol building to give a speech, a vision for this new Hydra-run government. But nearby stood Black Widow calling out to the Red Room team, which is the champions, to inform them that it is time to get into position. Earlier, she had debated with Spider-Man Miles Morales, as he felt that he was the one who was going to make the kill to murder Steve Rogers. As he told her, during the last Civil War, the Inhuman who could see the future said that Miles would kill Steve. But Black Widow tells him that she can't allow that. She won't let him cross that line, she'll do it. To ensure that he won't interrupt her, she locks him in a vehicle, and that's the last that she saw him. The whole operation was then placed into motion and staged by Black Widow. The kids were in place as a distraction, and the old man that they rescued from prison was Mosaic, an Inhuman with the power to possess people. Black Widow sent Mosaic out to take over the Hydra guards and start a commotion. And the kids are about to start the distraction while she positioned for her shot. That's when she found herself under attack. Frank Castle, the Punisher, opened fire on her, sent by Hydra to remove the threat known as Black Widow. As she kicked the Punisher in the face, she asked him, "What did Steve promise you to get you onto Hydra's side?" And Frank told her, "A safer world." Meanwhile, Spider-Man breaks out of the vehicle and begins to swing towards the Capitol building. Black Widow and Punisher go back and forth, both highly trained and capable of delivering damaging blows. But in the end, Black Widow is just trained more, and she got 2 knives into Frank's legs. Black Widow looked at Frank as he told her, "Steve said he would bring back everyone that we had lost with the Cosmic Cube. My family, Natasha." She got back into position to open fire with the rifle, and that's when she saw through the scope that Spider-Man had gotten up. He had walked up to Steve, and she knew that this was bad as she leaped out of the window. Both Steve and Miles saw the vision. They knew what was about to happen. Miles was supposed to kill Steve, and as Steve tells Miles, "We both know how this ends, so let's see what you're made of." Natasha is pushing her way through the crowd, getting closer and closer. Steve raises his shield, and as he goes in, Natasha jumps in the way, pushing him. But that shield, it still came down. It still did its damage, and it broke Black Widow's neck. Her eyes went lifeless and cold, and she hit the ground, killed by Steve Rogers. Miles saw it and he shouted, "No!" as he charged at Steve. In a single punch, Miles broke the shield that Steve had been using as a replacement for his original, and then he knocked Steve to the ground with a second punch. He walked over, grabbing Steve's body and raising him up, prepared to do what he was destined to do, to end this in murder. And the Wasp floats over, telling him, "Don't do it, don't murder him, and don't do it for yourself. Do it for her, for Natasha. She didn't want you to become a killer. She would want you to be Spider-Man." So he throws Steve's body down, leaving him injured, and the Hydra guards run up, grabbing their supreme leader, while the champions are all arrested. As Steve is brought out of sight, he is brought over to Sharon Carter, the woman who stood by his side all of these years, and now that he's a Hydra agent, doesn't want anything to do with him. She also tries to murder him, and he pushes her aside, calling for the guards to take her away, bring her to brainwashing. Meanwhile, in the vanishing point, the other Steve is about to be murdered by the Red Skull when he sees a woman, and he sees her as hope. Hope that he can get through this. So he dodged the club, kicked the Red Skull before running him towards the cliffside. They both plummeted over it and into the water down below as he thought to himself, "It's that glimmer of hope that keeps us alive." In the real world, the news of Black Widow's death reached the remaining members of the Resistance, and everyone thought it was all lost. The fight was over. But it wasn't, was it? We just needed a glimmer of hope. And it was Sam Wilson who put back on his Captain America uniform and told them, "We aren't done yet, guys." Now I'm going to break the immersion for 1 second to explain something. I'm going to be covering what happened within issue 8 and 9. Everything that is about to happen is going to be going very fast, but every one of these is a plot point that is actually explained in length in tie-ins. Some of them we're going to be covering, like Deadpool, the Darkhold, and Spider-Man. But some of them we won't be covering, like the Inhuman Liberation and the Survival Beyond the Shield. Some of these you'll just have to read yourself, but we will get to them in additional videos. Now, let's go to the story. Raj gets a machine working that projects a message within the Darkhold and beyond the shield into space, to the teams of superheroes scattered about. Attention, attention to everyone. This is Captain America and I have an urgent message for you. I know this is going to be hard, but I'm going to need your help more than ever now. Here in the Hydra-controlled United States, there is still an underground movement that is fighting back. Our battle has brought us to finding the Cosmic Cube. The same cube that turned Steve Rogers into Hydra Supreme got broken up and was scattered around the world. We have acquired most of the pieces except for the final one, and they are declaring war on anyone who holds it. But there is still hope. We liberated an Inhumans concentration camp and we met a new Inhuman. His name is Brian, but Tony calls him Barf. His power is to create whatever is needed at the exact moment that we need it by throwing it up. And he barfed up the last Cosmic Cube fragment. That's where all of you come in. Each individual charge of the Cosmic Cube has enough power for one wish. And I'm going to be using that wish to free you from the Darkhold over in New York and bring down the shield over Earth. I know that some of you want to give up hope, but this is our moment. Our chance to turn things around. And I know that we've been divided, torn apart, and broken for so damn long, but now it's time to assemble! Tony Stark looks at Sam Wilson. He survived the explosion he set for Steve because he still isn't the real Tony Stark, he's an AI construct. He looks at Sam. Like I told you, Sam, I used it to wish myself a birthday cake and then I tried to wish myself into being a real boy, but it didn't work. So you need to get up there and wish for nothing until you are high enough to affect everything. Then try and will it into existence like super hard. Good luck, Cap. And Sam, when you're up there, whatever you do, don't think of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. As Sam launches himself into the sky, everyone in the Darkhold and outside of the shield is getting ready. They need to be prepared to charge in. Sam soars through the air, but of course, this sets off the Hydra defense alerts, and the jets are scrambled. Sam knew that this was it, the last hope, the last shot, and the jets opened fire on him. So, if this was the last hope, imagine how it felt to see it crushed so quickly. That's when Sam was shot, and he began to fall out of the sky, plunging into the ocean below. That was it. The heroes had lost. The heroes in the Darkhold were forever lost to the darkness, and the shield would never fall. Or would it? You see, at the start of all of this, Quasar was rendered unconscious, but she had now finally awoken. She'd like to try cracking that shield, because while the heroes fell again, it was time to get back up and fight again. Sam lifted himself up out of the water, bleeding and injured, and Quasar hovered over the shield, bombarding it with everything. She used the power of the Protector of the Universe to shatter it into bits. While the heroes in space began to move on the Chitauri Queen that Steve had kidnapped, something else was going on. Yes, the heroes in the Darkhold couldn't get out, but as it turns out, there was one man who was maintaining that spell, and one woman who had the knowledge of this. She got this knowledge from Deadpool, who had secretly been working as a double agent, pretending to help Steve, but actually finding out the info. While Deadpool himself had been left to die, Maria took the information and shot Black out in the head. Captain Marvel, during this, swooped into a random house, destroying it in a single blast as she prepares for the fight with her ex-hero. And as she does that, the Darkhold bubble around New York falls, and the heroes realize that they have won. There is hope! Hope lives on, and they can still prevail in this battle. And so, they were ready to end this tale. But inside of the vanishing point, the other Steve was still pushing through the forest. The woman who gave him hope wasn't real, and she began to fade from existence. And as he realized that it was Sharon Carter, the love of his life and his only reason to exist, he began to scream out in frustration. That's when he heard a child's voice, the voice of Kobik, the little girl in the Cosmic Cube. They're all gone, and we're alone now. She apologized to him with tears rolling down her face as she tells him that she wanted everyone to be happy, but she messed it all up. They wanted me to make everything better, but I made it worse. Remember. Meanwhile, at the Hydra Supreme Command base, the removed King of Wakanda, T'Challa, stands before Steve, and then the X-Men arrive to discuss the matters at hand. But everything is slowed down by the battle from the heroes that are pushing forward. Steve just says, I have them right where I want them. All the heroes begin to get closer to the capital, and even Peter Parker finally leaps in asking, hey guys, what did I miss? Besides the fascist takeover of the United States, lots of death and destruction, general chaos, kind of an insensitive question now that I think about it. From across the globe, the heroes have all returned. They have all been given hope that they can finally end this and take back what Hydra has taken from them. Meanwhile, Emma Frost and Steve begin their talks on the mutant surrender and how Hydra is going to be taking over New TN. But Emma informs him, no mutant will ever kneel to you. And luckily, Magneto agrees with me. Magneto then begins to pull out the Hydra dreadnoughts from the sky, pulling them to the ground, crushing the metal that they are made of, as he is the master of metal. And even with all of that, the heroes didn't have enough to win. They were beginning to lose, until one individual had seen enough. Odin's son called out, "No more!" During this, the champions got free from their prison and they joined the fight, and while the heroes fought for the future fought for them. Viv went to her father, clearing him of the virus. Doctor Strange exorcised the demon out of Scarlet Witch, and with a little help from Thor, as he summoned her back from the plane of existence that she had been banished to. Bucky frees T'Challa, bringing the Black Panther into the fight, and even Sharon Carter, who was faking her brainwashing, sees the heroes finally prevailing, sees the hope of victory, and she begins to program the shield helicarriers that Steve stole, causing them to fall out of the sky. Through all of it, Steve still had a plan, and that was to have the cosmic cube that he had collected placed into his armor, into his chest, making him a god. Can the heroes win against a god? But back in the Vanishing Point, Kobik hits Steve with his memories and he begins to remember. He was a soldier, fighting for a cause that he believed in, and there was a battle where he was about to die when he woke up. Here, in this place. I don't understand. Am I dead? Am I dreaming? Can I go home? Who am I? And Kobik showed him a pool. And in that pool was what had happened while he was gone. He conquered the US, taking forth the hammer of Thor, and he killed the Red Skull. He realized what he was and what was happening. He wasn't in his mind. He wasn't dead. This wasn't the afterlife or some other dimension. This is Kobik's memory of the people that she changed. And that is all that he is. A memory of how Steve needs to be. So he asked her to bring him back, put him back into reality. The world shook. Something was coming, so Kobik ran. Because in the real world, while the heroes had defeated the armies, the ships, the vehicles, they hadn't defeated Steve. Now, Hydra Steve stood before them in battle armor with a cosmic cube in his chest. And he looked down on the heroes. Stand down. Look, we're finally here. But you're too late. The time for fighting is over. It's time to rebuild. Hydra is going to use the cosmic cube to restore the old world. Forge it into something better, stronger. And Logan stops him. I don't think you got any takers in the crowd, bub. So Hawkeye's the one who calls it. For Nat. Avengers assemble! And as the heroes charged against him, they didn't stand a chance. With a single punch, he leveled them all. He erased all of the Marvel heroes from existence, bringing the entire universe into the vision that he foresaw. The entire world was altered, rewritten in Hydra's vision. Steve had won. This was the end of our story. He gazed out and he was pleased. He saw a vision close to perfection. But something was missing. Hope still survived. That's when we hear a voice. You know, a wise man once said, it's not over until the fat lady sings. And that's when behind Steve we see Sam, Scott, and Bucky. Sam steps forward, kneeling before Steve, saying the words, Hail Hydra, and he presents the last piece of the cosmic cube to Steve. That was it. Steve had become omnipotent, and then it was gone. You see, Ant-Man and Bucky were shrunken down and in the cube, so when it merged together, Bucky went into it to get one thing. Inside of the Vanishing Point, the alternate Steve was looking around for Kobik, and when he found her screaming and crying out, he told her, let me help you. Above them, a door had opened, and together Steve and Kobik were pulled out of the cosmic cube and into reality. Behind Steve stepped out Kobik, who reverted the world to the way it was supposed to be, and that's when, in front of Steve, he was faced with his nightmare. The true hope of the Marvel Universe, Captain America, stood before him, and the red, white, and blue with a rather angry look upon his face. This imposter, this fraud, looked upon the real Captain America. You're not real. And Cap looked back at him. Best as I understand it, that's up for grabs at the moment. It's time people saw the truth. As the two individuals began to battle it out, they were matched far too evenly, and with each punch thrown, there was another just as strong to follow it up. Both men saw Thor's hammer out of the way, in the middle of the field, and both men dove for it. Steve grabbed the hammer first, but this was the moment that he had dreaded, the reason he had never wielded the hammer, because his rise to power was on the back of a lie. He was never worthy. So, Captain America walked over. Here, let me try. And Captain America picked up the hammer and swung it hard. The blow was so hard that it shattered Steve's armor and threw him to the ground. Because only the true Captain America is worthy. And it was at this moment that Steve-L was defeated. And Captain America stood over him. That was it. It was over. The Secret Empire had been defeated. Captain America returned the hammer to Thor, and Kobik looked at everyone. I'm sorry I got it wrong, but I know what to do now, and I'll fix everything. So she restored the proper timeline and removed the threat of Hydra once again. She then gave a gift to all of the heroes, something to remember the hope that they needed, to discover who they really were. This is the Generations tie-in, and I'll be covering those in a bit. But once they all came back from their little excursion into the entire universe, they had a newfound purpose, one that told them why they're heroes. Why they are the Earth's mightiest heroes. And there you have it. The conclusion to Secret Empire. Now, I appreciate each and every one of you guys who spent the time to watch this video with me. And like I said in the video, we will be covering some of the tie-ins. Primarily, we're going to be doing Deadpool, Uncanny Avengers, Spider-Man, and probably like one or two other ones. Those are the plans right now, but if you don't watch them, if nobody watches them, we're just going to stop doing them midway through. Overall, I didn't think the story itself, the core idea of this story was a bad story, but the problems that I had with it involved pacing and a lot of stuff that happened between the panels and usual Marvel event problems such as things happening in these spin-off titles. I'm going to give you a full rundown as to what problems I had with the story in a separate video because honestly, I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of nitpicking and ranting. Overall, though, the idea of the story isn't a bad one. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the overall idea of the story. The hero known as Steve Rogers becoming a villain. It's really no different than the idea of Injustice, which is why I like it. It's just the route they used to get there, wasn't a fan of that. Anyway, click right here to get more Secret Empire videos if you enjoyed this. Click over here to get something by YouTube. Subscribe to this channel to get all of those tie-ins, and I will see you next time right here at Comicstorian.